Hello, it's Malcolm here, and in this screencast I want to talk to you about the types of questions that are typically asked in a mathematics classroom. And the reason I want to talk about this is because I'm getting ready for our larger discussion about facilitating thinking and working mathematically, and that's the discussion we'll have in class coming up. For the purposes of discussing facilitating and thinking working mathematically, I've tried to classify all the types of questions that are typically asked in a mathematics classroom. And my classification has two dimensions. So I have a horizontal dimension here, and that one will be how much time we expect the student to spend on the question. And so at this end of the scale, questions are quite short. Students spend maybe 2-3 minutes, maybe 5 minutes, right down to this end where students might spend a whole period or even weeks doing the questions. On the other scale, the vertical scale, I have how much guidance the teacher gives. So at this end of the scale, there are lots of guidance given by the teacher in the form of examples for the students to work, and the questions are related exactly to the examples the teacher's given, right down to here, where the teachers don't give much guidance at all and the students have to work out what to do. So if we're down here where it's short and there's lots of guidance, we'd think of those as exercises that we've been calling exercises. And as we move away from lots of guidance, so the students have to work out for themselves what to do, then we get into problems. On the other dimension, as we go along here, if there's still lots of teacher guidance, but the questions are taking longer to do, then we're getting in towards guided discovery. And if we go down here, there's not much guidance by the teachers and it's an extended question, then we're probably into what I would call investigations and explorations. So that would be the classification that I'm going to use. Now it seems reasonable that the different types of questions are useful for different types of student outcomes. For example, if we're here using questions with lots of teacher guidance but they're fairly short, that would be very useful for students when they're learning new content, especially at the beginning of that content. These types of questions get the students into the ideas slowly with lots of scaffolding, and it gives them time to build up intuition about the ideas and topics being talked about. You can move away from that in several directions. We could go across here and have more and more guidance, more and more extended problems, I should say, or we could come down this way and have less and less guidance. And as we move right down here where it's extended questions and not much guidance, then we're into the areas where you want the students to be thinking and working mathematically independently. So using this classification, we then can think about how the entire worksheets that we give students to work on are structured. And typically, worksheets start off with exercises, so students can get familiar, get confidence and so forth, and then they can do several things. So quite often they will then move down and ask questions that try to apply the knowledge or the ideas in different contexts, and they got minor variations from what the teacher gave, and then slowly move into more and more unfamiliar contexts. So in which case the worksheets are structured starting at exercises and moving down towards problems. I must admit, there is another approach, and sometimes the worksheets start with exercises and they move this way, trying to guide where the students go with lots of teacher guidance. And so the worksheets go that way towards the guided discovery. I guess I've even seen cases where worksheets actually start off with guided discovery, come up with some ideas, go through the exercises and then come down this way. But those types of worksheets are not as common. What also is not as common is how far do the worksheets go? So for example, do they ever move from the guided discovery down to investigation and explorations, or do they move along the problems towards investigations and explorations? That's where the big question mark sits, I think. Okay, as you can tell, you can see where that might lead in terms of our discussion of facilitating thinking and working mathematically, and we'll continue this one in class.